It appears that the American people have decided to hand Donald J. Trump a get out of jail free card. What happens when a president's actions challenge the very foundations of democracy? That's the question that Special Counsel Jack Smith's report forces us to confront. Hello, Deep Diggers, and welcome to a special edition of The Deep Gripping Reality. In this episode, we're diving into the findings of Special Counsel Jack Smith's recently released report on former President Donald J. Trump, a link to which you can find in this video's description. This comprehensive report, spanning over 170 pages, delves into Trump's role in the events of January 6th, his alleged attempts to subvert the 2020 election results, and the accusations surrounding his withholding of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. It's dense, it's crucial, and it's something that every American should understand as Trump prepares to take the oath of office once again. So let me break it down for you. Late 2022, the Department of Justice hands Jack Smith one of the most consequential assignments in modern history. His singular mission? To investigate whether Donald Trump or his associates committed crimes while attempting to overturn the 2020 election, or in mishandling classified documents post-presidency. This report is the culmination of that investigation. Before we dive in, let's be clear. These aren't just accusations, they're a blueprint for a democratic crisis. Here's the core takeaway. Smith's team believes wholeheartedly that they could have secured a conviction against Trump. They assessed that the evidence was both admissible and strong enough to obtain and sustain a conviction at trial. However, the Department of Justice has interpreted the Constitution to prohibit the federal indictment or prosecution of a sitting president, based on long-standing internal policy and legal options. As of January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump will once again assume that position. The findings of this report are staggering, meticulous, damning, and far-reaching. Let's examine the key revelations. First, pressure on state officials. Jack Smith's team describes a systematic campaign, spearheaded by Trump himself, to coerce Republican officials into rewriting history. Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Ratzenberger, didn't just receive a phone call. He was told, and I quote, find 11,780 votes. Just enough to split the state. That's not politics, it's intimidation. Have a listen.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state, and flipping the state is a great testament to our country, because, you know, there's just, it's a testament that they can admit to a mistake, or whatever you want to call it, if it was a mistake. I don't know.
Next, we move on to the fraudulent elector scheme. 7 states, 7 slates of fraudulent electors, and 1 coordinated scheme. Jack Smith's report reveals how Trump and his allies orchestrated a conspiracy to subvert the Electoral College, a cornerstone of the Republic's democratic process. These weren't oversights or technical errors. These were deliberate actions, false certifications claiming Trump had won states that he had lost. And the purpose? To throw Congress into chaos on January 6th and disrupt the peaceful transfer of power, a ploy as brazen as it was calculated. If subverting the Electoral College was one tactic, turning the nation's most trusted institutions into political tools was another. The Department of Justice, intended to serve justice, not just agendas, was pressured to lend its credibility to the baseless claims of election fraud. According to the report, Trump sought to weaponize the DOJ to legitimize conspiracy theories that were debunked by his own Attorney General. Bill Barr, in a rare rebuke, declared that there was no evidence of widespread fraud in the 2020 election. But that didn't deter Trump. The report exposes repeated attempts to turn the Department of Justice into a political arm of his presidency, eroding the public trust in one of the nation's most critical institutions. January 6th, 2021. A date now etched into history as an assault on democracy itself. The report connects the dots. Trump's fiery rhetoric, his rallying cries to fight like hell, and the violent breach of the Capitol. But this wasn't just a moment of chaos. It was, according to the report, a deliberate attempt to disrupt the certification of Biden's victory. A mob incited, a Congress under siege, a democracy hanging by a thread. Now let's take a look at Mar-a-Lago, an opulent resort turned vault for some of the nation's most sensitive secrets. The report underscores how Trump repeatedly refused to return classified documents that could imperil national security. These weren't minor oversights or even clerical missteps. They were a blatant disregard for the safeguards protecting America's intelligence, and a chilling reminder of the risks posed when power eclipses accountability. The legal implications? They're as stark as they are unsettling. The charges laid out against Trump weren't obscure statutes buried in legalese. They're the backbone of American law. Conspiracy to defraud the United States, 18 U.S.C. subsection 371. It's a straightforward and yet profound charge. It speaks to an alleged scheme, deceptive, deliberate, and designed to undermine the government itself. Evidence shows that Trump knowingly propagated falsehoods, despite being informed by advisors and officials that his claims were baseless. Mr. Trump was, unsurprisingly, undeterred by facts, choosing instead to push the big lie. He deflected suspicion of his own actions by claiming that Democrats and Biden were trying to, quote, steal the election, and that it was the American public's duty to stop the steal. Obstruction of an official proceeding, 18 U.S.C. subsection 1512. Specifically tied to the January 16th certification, this charge outlines actions taken to impede Congress. The report highlights Trump urging Vice President Pence to reject or delay certification, and inciting a mob to disrupt Congress. The third violation, conspiracy against rights, 18 U.S.C. subsection 241. This focused on attempts to disenfranchise voters and overturn legitimate results. Despite these violations, the Department of Justice ultimately moved to dismiss the case against Trump after his re-election, due to the internal policies, including prohibition on prosecuting a sitting president. So what does all this mean for justice, for democracy, for the American experiment? These are not rhetorical questions. They're the crossroads at which we stand. To figure this out, let's talk about why prosecuting Trump was deemed essential. First and foremost, Trump's conduct was unprecedented in American history, further justifying federal action. Not to mention the need to protect the integrity of the electoral process. The report emphasized that prosecuting Trump would have reinforced public trust in democratic systems. 2. The rule of law. No one, not even the president, should be above the law. And number 3, protecting officials and voters. Holding Trump accountable could have served as a deterrent against future attempts to intimidate election officials or disenfranchise voters. The challenges weren't legal loopholes, they were systematic barriers. Witness intimidation, sweeping claims of executive privilege, and a constitution never envisioned as a shield for tyranny. So what are the takeaways here? Justice isn't a tool to sway outcomes. It's a principle, a promise, and sometimes an uncomfortable truth. Jack Smith's report is a mirror held up to our democracy, reflecting its fragility and its resilience. As Trump prepares to take office again, this report is more than just a legal document. It's a cautionary tale. It asks us all to consider, what does accountability mean in a democracy? How do we ensure that the mistakes of our past are not repeated? But here's an important note for the future. While Trump cannot be indicted as a sitting president, the Constitution does not provide lifelong immunity. Once he leaves office, he could theoretically face criminal charges based on these findings. This would depend on factors like statute of limitations, the strength of the evidence, and the political climate at this time, which will most likely play the biggest role. Regardless, the principle remains clear. No one, and I repeat, no one, is above the law, not even a former president. Jack Smith's report is more than a legal document. It's a call to action for every citizen who believes in the rule of law, for every leader who values democracy. The question isn't just what happened, it's what comes next. So what will we do with this moment? Will we learn? Will we act? Or will we look away? How do you rebuild trust in a system that's tested to its limit? These are questions that we must answer together, and these answers will define us. This has been The Deep Gripping Reality. Until next time, stay informed, stay vigilant, and as always, dig deep, my friends.